Good morning. Welcome to the Bucks County Commissioners meeting for March 16th, 2022. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, just a reminder, a couple meetings, or our last meeting, the county did make a little bit of an announcement regarding 4 different nonprofits that directly connect to Ukraine. Most of them are Philadelphia-based or in Southeast Pennsylvania-based nonprofits you can donate things to. In addition, the court reporters of the county have begun a collection. So in some of the areas in this building, on some of the floors, you'll see, blue and yellow boxes. So if anybody has anything they would like to do to help the people of Ukraine, so just want to make you aware of that. Thank those who've already made some donations and contributions. Thank you to the court reporters for their efforts, and we'll keep the people of that country in our prayers. And also just want to introduce. I'm not going to ask him to speak, but I told him I wouldn't do that. But we did, after a very, very exhaustive search, the county is thrilled to have a new Veterans Affairs Director who is here with us. Has a lot of experience in Philadelphia. He's himself a Marine Corps veteran. He just started about a week ago, so he's still figuring out some of the things here and finding his way around. But Tim Wynn, just stand up, raise your hand. Thank you. Welcome. So he's anxious to get to work, and we're glad to have him here. So thank you. Okay, we have a couple of presentations and proclamations. We're going to begin with one for the Ark Alliance, and I will turn to Commissioner DiGirolamo.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have a proclamation here I'd like to read. Whereas between 1% and 3% of the population has an intellectual and/or developmental disability, a figure that cuts across the lines of racial, ethnic, educational, social, and economic backgrounds. Whereas an intellectual and/or developmental disability is defined as a disability characterized by significant limitations in areas such as intellectual functioning and an adaptive behavior, as expressed in conceptual, social, and practical adaptive skills, and which originates before age 22. People with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities are valued members of society, are friends, neighbors, and coworkers who find fulfillment living everyday lives. Education, services, and supports continue to be vital to enabling citizens with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities to find greater opportunities to develop relationships, pursue their dreams, be integrated into their communities, and contribute to those communities in a meaningful and fulfilling way. Now, therefore, we, the Board of the Bucks County Commissioners, Chair Robert Harvey, Vice Chair Diane Ellis Marseglia, and Jean DiGirolamo, hereby proclaim March 2022 to be Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month throughout the county. In so doing, we encourage all residents to support the efforts and hard work of our neighbors with intellectual disabilities and their families as they strive to live self-determined lives and realize their own personal aspirations. I think we have someone here.
Yes, we have Mr. Michael Kudla, the CFO of the Ark Alliance, who's here. Would you like to come forward and speak? Sure. Want to come forward?
Well, I just wanted to thank, on behalf of the Ark and the IDD community, I wanted to thank Bucks County Commissioners for this proclamation. 2 years ago this week, we all know that we had the pandemic started. We were all in lockdown. And while we all had problems, our folks in the IDD community were particularly affected by what we had to go through. So I wanted to thank you all for your help and your support, and for the folks in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay here, Michael, take some pictures if you want to, just, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate all your work.
Mike, congratulations, good.
Appreciate your work.
Bob, can I just say something?
Absolutely.
Yep, and it's great that Mike took the proclamation, and I know Mike from his work on behalf of the Ark, and this is kind of like up in Harrisburg, the funding that comes from the state through the federal government is so important to these individuals and their families. And as the battle goes on in Harrisburg for the funding issues, I know there's a bunch of increases for people that have these types of disabilities and also other areas of human services. And and I know our legislators here in Bucks County, all of them are really attuned to what's going on and the need for these added funding. So I just want to encourage, if anybody has the opportunity to say a word to their legislator about how important this funding is. The funding that the county has to take care of the individuals here in Bucks County, much of that comes from the state and the federal government, so we need the funding. We need this funding to take care of these individuals and their families. They deserve it, and they need it, and it is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a proclamation for the Public Defender's Office. Commissioner Marseglia.
Thank you, and I believe we have a number of public defenders here. We've probably never been so safe and had our rights protected so well in here. Whereas the right to speedy and public trial by an impartial jury with the assistance of defense counsel is guaranteed in the Sixth Amendment in the United States Constitution. And whereas on March 18, 1963, the United States Supreme Court upheld that right in Gideon versus Wainwright, ruling that states must provide attorneys to criminal defendants who are unable to afford one on their own. And whereas the Pennsylvania General Assembly in 1968 passed the Public Defender Act to ensure that each county is responsible for providing legal counsel to any person at every stage of the proceedings. And whereas the Bucks County Public Defender's Office, which is made up of licensed members of the Pennsylvania Bar, is dedicated to representing adult and juvenile clients in all phases of the criminal justice system. And whereas the Bucks County Public Defenders are part of a team that includes social workers, paralegals, investigators, and administrative professionals who work to serve clients and their community. And whereas the Board of Bucks County Commissioners is committed to ensuring the continued independence and success of the Bucks County Public Defenders. So now, therefore, do we, the Bucks County Commissioners, proclaim March 18th, 2022 as Public Defender Day throughout the County of Bucks. And in so doing, we remember the anniversary of Gideon versus Wainwright, and we commend our public defenders who continue to fulfill the promise of the Bill of Rights. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Ann Rasevich-Faust here, Chief Public Defender.
Thank you. I want to begin by thanking this board for your support and your genuine interest in our success. As Commissioner said, Gideon versus Wainwright established our right to be. That case said that the right to be heard would be of little avail without the guiding hand of an attorney, and that's who all these good people in these rows are. We represent adults who qualify for our services and all juveniles who want our services. We start representation shortly after arrest and continue through the whole case and all sorts of post-conviction proceedings. We also handle youthful offender and veterans court, and a number of members of our staff are members of those teams. Our staff is divided into specialty units. We have, and I hope that some of the people would be here, but we have a mental health unit, we have a juvenile unit, which is run by Lisa Duple. We have an appellate division. Our chief of trials, Jack Fagan, is here. He divided our representation, our staff, our senior staff, into subspecialties so that we could better serve our clients. We do defend constitutional rights, but there's a lot more that we do, and I want to tell you a little bit about that now. With the support of this board, we started an expungement unit, and recently we've helped about 25 people get their records expunged, but recently we had a college student come in, and we had the record expunged so that that person could get into an internship program and hopefully get a good job when they graduate from college. Our social worker advocate program, this board supported us hiring another social worker. That social worker, her main job since July has been to connect these clients with various services that they may need. Those services help that client, but they also help the client's family, and they help the community. There's a ripple effect to dollars spent in helping a person directly like that. We also help with policy matters. Recently, we wrote a letter to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court Rules Committee because we were concerned that some of the new rules changes would increase incarceration of our clients. And we also felt that because this was largely an unfunded mandate, that it would impact our ability to carry forth our constitutional duties to represent our clients. I also would like to talk about a program that we recently participated in, which I think shows how a number of county offices working together and what we can accomplish. There's a wonderful program called the Pathfinders Program, which is in the Sheriff's Department. And recently, the sheriffs, with this Pathfinder program, went to various homeless encampments and found people that had open warrants and open cases. They connected these people to our office so that they could apply and get representation. We reached out to the district attorney's office so that we could get positive resolutions for these people. At the Adult Probation and Parole, the lower end office opened their doors so that these people could appear remotely and have these cases heard. Judge McGuffin heard these cases at the end of January. And these people didn't have to come in, they weren't arrested, and they were able to have their cases resolved. Adult Probation and Parole also provided these folks with coffee and food, and Andrea Giannetti from my office, and I know she's not gonna want me to say this, but she purchased gift cards for all of these people. So I just appreciate you making this proclamation and allowing us to shine a light on not only what we're constitutionally required to do, but the other many things that we do in this office. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll recognize the kid in the back of the room.
Last name Weintraub, I'm always in the back.
Yeah.
I would just like to comment on the excellence of our public defenders. I've worked with these people on and off for over 28 years. Some of them predate me, which is pretty ridiculous in the sublime, frankly. But I always find them to be fierce advocates for their clients, great cooperators in the grand scheme of things, and that we're always seeking justice together. But when it comes time to fight for their clients' rights, they fight harder than anybody I've ever seen. And I think they know the balance. They know that we're all united in the mission. And I am in awe and have a lot of respect for everything that you do every day. That's not just the people in this room, but that's your entire staff. And I think that's a credit to the county and how much that you support them. And I'm glad that you're recognizing them today. Thank you all very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you want to have your staff come up too? Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right, our final presentation comes to us from our Register of Wills, Clerk of the Orphans Court. You may have seen a few months ago, I think it was January or so, that Linda Bobrin sort of highlighted a program she did for veterans where they had a free wedding service. And that was held similar program just almost exactly a month ago on Valentine's Day for a broader scope of people. So I'm going to let her talk about her Vows and Valentine's program.
So, yep, just about a month ago, Valentine's Day, so it's kind of now for something completely different. So I'm happy to report on our Valentine's Day program. We once again offered free weddings. This time we added vow renewals. So we married 16 couples and renewed the vows of 9 couples in addition. We worked again with our community partners who offered us free food, free cake, free donuts. So as always, I want to thank a number of different people who worked with us. Of course, I want to thank Kevin Spencer and General Services. We can't do it without them, especially Steve Bronze and the help of our interns from Project Search. They set up the entire 3rd floor rotunda for us. And as usual, they had it all set up. We came down and said, could we do it completely different than the way you set it up? They set it up a completely different way, and then we said, no, we like what you did better, so could you put that all back? And they do it with a smile every single time. They work with us, and always, they don't argue, they just do what we ask them to do. They changed everything back. I want to just say specifically Quinoa, the restaurant, donated everything to us. The Novel Baker, Duck Donuts, everything free of charge. Bucksmont Party Rentals, just these people just donated stuff to us. We're willing to just do it when we ask them. My staff helped us decide on colors, flavors. I had them all standing as wedding guests so we could figure out the choreography to see if it would work, because when you have 16 couples getting married, it's not really all that simple to figure out the logistics and the choreography. Colleen, Rachel, Lisa Marie, Mary from my office dealt with the couples, dealt with the vendors, and got everything together. I heard Judge McGuffin just being invoked. I have to thank Judge McGuffin as well. I don't think he really knew what he was getting into when we asked him to do this wedding. He was a really good sport about it, did both the vow renewals and the wedding ceremony, and did it with a smile. It was amazing. And I have to say also, we got a lot of press coverage for this. We didn't get as much for the veterans. I'm hoping we will the next time. That meant a lot to me, mainly because it brought a lot of attention to what we were doing. A lot of these couples, both for the veterans program and for this program, they didn't get married for a variety of reasons. They didn't get married because of COVID. They didn't get married because they couldn't afford it. They didn't get married for so many different reasons. They wrote us emails, they called us, and they gave us these really poignant, beautiful stories about their love stories, about their history, about their families. And they were so appreciative that we were doing this for them. And it was so heartwarming, a lot of it, and it just gave us such pleasure to be able to do it for them. So with that, it also, by the way, it was an opportunity to bring them into the community government, to show them things that their government could do for them, that their community could do for them, and it was just really fun. My office does probates, we do adoptions, we can't have a probate party, that's not fun. Adoptions are fun, we do celebrate that every year, but we do marriages, and that's something that we could celebrate, and it's a lot of fun. So with that, Randy, if you're ready, we have a video again of our vows and Valentines that I'd like to share.
sickness and in health. To love and to cherish. All the days of my life. Take you to be my husband. To have and to hold. From this day forward. For better or for worse. For richer or for poorer. In sickness and in health. To love and to cherish. All the days of my life. Each of these loving couples to be husband and wife. You may now seal the declaration with a kiss. Continue to take your wife as your wife. Do you promise to cherish her, trust her, honor her, remain loyal to her so long as you both shall live? If so, please say I do. I do. Excellent. And so now, at the invitation again of our Register of Wills, and by the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas, it is my honor and my delight to redeclare each of these loving couples to be husband and wife. You may seal this declaration with a kiss.
So thank you, Ms. Barbara, and obviously you can take a look just from the video as to all the work that had to go into that event. The one in November, which was for around Veterans Day, of course, was outside, just a few couples. But I know you want to continue that, and so I'm sure Mr. Nguyen would be very excited to sort of connect with you on that. And no, we really appreciate the work you did, your whole staff, general services, you know, the staff here in the building. And the one thing they didn't really show, there is sort of the walkway, the catwalk that goes above where the ceremonies were happening, was just kind of lined with people. Most of them employees, you know, who were just kind of looking and watching and just sort of, you know, it was a great day. A little, you know, not as much work got done for that hour or so, but that's okay. I mean, it was still good county work that got done. So thank you for everything you did.
Thank you. We anticipate another veterans and maybe first responders one in the next few months, so we'll keep you posted.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. This is for agenda items only. We do have a later public comment for other just generic public comment. So the first name I see on the list, James Keenan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just wanted to make a comment on why I support the Responsible Contractor Ordinance amendments. An apprenticeship program ensures that skilled workers on the project have been through all the proper training for their specialized craft. Any given project can have dozens to hundreds of craft labor personnel employed on it in diverse and highly specialized occupations such as plumbers, electricians, carpenters, iron workers, operating engineers, etc. Given the high-skilled nature of the work, basic competency in any of these trades requires focused, intensive training through 3 to 5 year apprenticeship training programs. All manner of professions require schooling in their particular field of study. Why should construction be any different? Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm James Keenan. I'm from Bedminster Township.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Edward Mackhouse.
Well, my name is Ed Mackhouse. I'm here to talk about agenda item number 11, about the contract to the law department. I'm not familiar with this law firm at all, so I don't have any particular comment directly at this law firm, but I'd like to have a couple questions. You said there's a list of outside counsel authorized to provide legal services subject to approval of county solicitor. I'd like to know how long that list is, and if there's any, like what is the range of the hourly fees that the law firms get, and is there a total limit on how much money is being spent for the law firms? And then, as a former teacher, taught for 10 years in New York during the 70s, and I have experience with laws and the legal profession. I respect the legal profession. I sat in on some courts here, and I saw the judges and the lawyers trying to deal with criminals. And the criminals I found a lot of times were very honest. And they said, well, I can't control my temper. I lose control of my temper. And the judge asked them, well, you have to take these tests for drugs and all like that. And some refused, all kinds of things. So the criminals, sometimes they're honest, but they have real problems. And we need lawyers who can resolve disputes and teach people how to solve disputes with nonviolent means, because they tend to lose their temper. So my experience was in the 70s. I knew from other teachers that generally there was much more politeness before. A lot of politeness. The civil rights movement was good. It enabled us to work with blacks and other people that we could not do. As Jewish, I wanted to be able to work with blacks and others, and the segregation interfered with this. But one of the problems with the integration was that people started using race as an excuse for inequalities and stuff, excuses for problems. And then teachers, unfortunately, teachers lost and parents lost the rights to discipline their children. And then they started to push drugs, but you have to give drugs to the child who's not behaving. So the parents, some teachers used to slap the kid on the hand. I think one year there's $20 million in lawsuits in Philadelphia for teachers trying to restrain students and teach students, especially young students. I don't think it's good to have the lawyers and the courts interfere with the relationships with the parents and the students and the children, the teachers and students too much. They have to have ability to restrain and protect the innocent children, and that's their duty. Of course, there's always going to be some charges, and no one's perfect. The police are not perfect. So, but I think people who will not stand up and protect an innocent person do not have the right to criticize the police for using excessive force when they don't know the degree of force that's required. As a teacher, I broke up fights a lot of times between violent girls, and I was able to twist the girl's arm, get her down, and break up the fight. Other teachers complained that it took 4 teachers to break up a fight. And nearby high school here, 10 teachers were injured, sent to the hospital trying to break up a fight with 4 girls. So you need not only education about how to be a teacher, but you need to hire, even in the hospitals, you need to hire strong men who are able to break up fights and protect women, innocent children. And I know serious teachers have been injured seriously by kids that think it's a joke. And you have to give the authority back to the principals, the teachers, parents, and the police to get the respect and solve these problems. Lawyers, doctors get money by treating people that are problems, but we need to solve the problems and not look for big fees and stuff. Thank you very much.
Andy Warren?
Commissioners, Mr. Wynn, welcome to Bucks County. Thank you for your service. And I heard Commissioner Harvey say you're coming from Philadelphia or live in Philadelphia, or? I live in Philadelphia. I'm coming from Philadelphia. Well, you crossed the border, and that's a good thing. We'll talk about borders at the end, but that's a good thing. Welcome to Bucks County. I have a couple of questions. Item 1C. It's using COVID money again till June of 2023. My question is, how long do we expect this COVID money to be used to continue? Item number 3. There are 5 contracts, D, E, F, G, H, 5 contracts going to the same firm for over $1 million for 3 months, as I read it, for 3 months of work. The contract was an extension from July of last year till June of this year. Well, if that was the case, aren't 9 months of the work already done? And are we just paying for 3 months left? The same question is for item 16. This time we have 8 contracts saying the same thing for, as it's written, like essentially an extension of 3 months of work. And those are the questions. Item 6A, I'm not sure if the first gentleman spoke to that or not, the ordinance, and does it limit the pool of contractors in any way that are eligible for county work? What type of work are we talking about? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Eric Schuett?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your service, sir. I just have a comment on the responsible contracting obligations. As a taxpayer, I want the best training individuals possible working on a project within the community to ensure the end product is of the highest quality possible. There are many horror stories out there that where poor workmanship ends up costing the community much more than the original budget is called for. That's why I believe we need strong language in place to protect the taxpayers' dollars. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all we have for agenda items. Going to touch on some of the questions that we had. Mr. Khan, do you want to address those? I guess there were a couple actual questions in the comment about number 11, the amount of money spent, hourly rate, cap, that kind of thing.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Commissioner. As the item explains, back on January 8th, which was the first full public meeting that the Commissioners had, the board approved a list, and I think it was around 18, 19, 20 law firms. These were outside counsel that the board wished to direct the county solicitor to choose from if there were going to be new engagements that required the use of outside counsel. And so that was approved on a list. If you go onto our website at buckscounty.gov, you can actually look at the minutes for every meeting going back to then and before that. You can look at the minutes and you can see the full list. Since then, the board has periodically made some adjustments to that list. There were actually a couple of firms that were Philadelphia-based that were taken off over the years. A couple local law firms, Hardwick Benfer and Antheil Maslow and McMinn were added over the last couple of years. And separate from that vote was a vote to establish sort of ceiling rates for different kinds of legal services. And the board, again, over the years has kind of updated that. But so, for example, if I am to engage a law firm from that list for, say, litigation, the maximum rate can't be any more than $350 an hour at the most. Anything else would require separate approval. Similarly, if it's engaging a firm for right-to-know work, that would max out at $150 an hour, again, unless the board took a separate vote. So that's kind of the structure of how that works. And then, Commissioner, actually, as to this particular firm, I actually know quite a bit about it. In fact, the first time I met our district attorney, I was working at that firm, and Langer, Grogan, and Diver is a public interest law firm based in Philadelphia, where the commissioners found me when I was hired. And one of the things that we've been doing in the law department over the last 2 years has been to rely on outside counsel less and less, particularly for things like litigation, things that are very expensive. At the same time, where we've been trying to grow and go in new areas is in the area of what we think of as affirmative litigation, doing things not just because we're getting sued, but because there's some kind of cause of action that aligns with one of the goals of the commissioners. We've talked at length about the opioid litigation that's been going on across the country, as well as here in Bucks County. More recently, in the area of environmental work, the board has asked the department to get involved in maintaining the fracking ban in Pennsylvania, in going after companies in partnership with the DA against companies that manufactured firefighting foam that had PFAS that polluted our waters. So these are all areas where we not only need to turn to outside counsel, but often, hopefully in an arrangement that doesn't actually cost us anything by the hour, through what are called contingent relationships, where we don't pay any legal fees unless the county wins some kind of recovery. And that is the kind of work that this firm primarily does, as well as pro bono work, which actually they've already been helping the county or offering to help the county with. Some people in the room may actually know the Grogan name. John Grogan is the son of longtime former Doylestown councilman John Grogan, and his family has very strong community ties here. And 2 years ago, the county passed its first ordinance under this administration, the Responsible Contractor Ordinance. The second ordinance that the county passed was a false claims ordinance that helped protect the county against fraud And John was a big part of No Charge of the County helping us draft that ordinance. So that's some of the history here, and our hope is that the firm will not only continue to offer pro bono counsel, but continue to be available as we think about some of these additional areas where the county can start to bring cases in affirmative work.
Okay, thank you. We did a couple comments about the RCO, but we're going to have a presentation on that a little bit later. So we'll get back to that. There was a question about the workforce development items in 16.
Yes.
Evan?
So when the Workforce Development Board was brought into the county, we had to develop contracts with, that they didn't have before here. And we needed to revise some of the language in those contracts so that the controller's office could pay the bills for them. Some of the other contracts that are on this list, we had money for them in the contract period and the budget cycle of the state, and it's left over, and those are the new contracts with companies that can use that until the end of the year.
Okay. There was a question, too, about the Area Agency on Aging, 1C. This specific program is to help our senior centers reach out to those seniors who are homebound, especially during the pandemic, those who didn't want to come out to the senior center to get, for example, they come out weekly for food or activities or things like that. We wanted to keep them engaged, especially during the pandemic when many of them were sort of home alone. So that's kind of what this program is for. I think the question was about how long the funding would go.
So the funding, well, it'll go till the end of this. I think this one's for till 2023, right? Yeah. Right. This is, I think, the first of many contracts to come before you with our nonprofit providers for COVID money, and it will end 2024, 2025. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. And the other question was about 3D through 3H, a couple different contracts with KS Consultants.
Okay, so I have an answer here from Marge McEwen, the Director of Children and Youth. The budget pack is the Fed and state funding providers took a while to return their packets due to the additional changes in insurance requirements. Some providers had difficulty meeting the additional insurance requirements, and that's why the contracts were on this agenda and not previous agendas.
Okay. Okay. I think those are the questions. All right, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Before we consider it, there is a minor correction on number 8A. The description purpose says approve signature authority for a grant general services applying for on behalf of the county. It's actually 2 grants, so it should be grants, plural. Is there, the consent agenda includes the minutes as well as resolutions 1 through 17A. Are there any questions or comments regarding the minutes or the resolutions?
Motion to approve 1 through 17A.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, regular agenda. I heard a couple of comments from members of the public about what's called the Responsible Contractors Ordinance, RCO. This is something that the commissioners passed just about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago exactly, I think. And this is an update. We're going to turn to our Projects and Diversity Officer, Mr. Bernard Griggs, to give a little bit of explanation of what an RCO is and why we're making some adjustments to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Just a little background on the Responsible Contractor Ordinance. The Responsible Contractor Ordinance is essentially a law that includes a set of procurement and contracting tools that are used to help ensure successful delivery of public works projects. Under the RCO, general contractors, prime and subcontractors must verify compliance with key performance criteria to ensure they are reputable, qualified firms which have the capabilities and the resources needed to successfully perform project work. The need for RCOs are due to the fact that capital construction projects represent some of the largest, most complex, and inherently high-risk investments undertaken by public bodies. Effective due diligence and quality control measures are therefore vital to protect these investments. Existing public bidding law already requires that contracts be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. The problem is that the term responsible is usually not adequately defined or enforced in this context. That said, it was the forward thinking of the commissioners of this administration taking the proactive measure of passing the RCO in 2020 by a bipartisan unanimous vote to sort of head this issue off at the pass before it would potentially become an issue. And during the time that the RCO was in place, since 2020, it has worked okay in doing what it's supposed to do. But due to the volume of upcoming county projects and the fact that skilled labor is in high demand and in short supply, in turn, is causing more and more construction firms, especially the ones that do not participate in apprenticeship training, to end up with workforces that are unskilled. Furthermore, skilled labor shortages have plagued the construction industry for over 2 decades. But in the last year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the Great Resignation, skilled labor is in the shortest supply it has ever been in. So it is necessary to require an increased percentage of skilled craft personnel with the training and skills needed for public works projects to provide additional protections for the benefit of the county and its residents. Under the current section of the RCO that pertains to apprenticeship training, which is probably the most important requirement of the RCO, this section requires that the construction manager, general contractor, or lead prime contractors confirm and certify that the firm participates in a Class A apprenticeship program. A Class A apprenticeship program is an apprenticeship program that is currently registered with and approved by the United States Department of Labor or a state apprenticeship agency and has graduated apprentices to journey person status for at least 3 of the past 5 years. The amendments to the ordinance are to require that the construction manager, general contractor, and other lead or prime contractors responsible for the project shall ensure that at least 70% of the craft labor workers employed on the project shall be comprised of either journey person workers who have successfully completed a Class A apprenticeship program or apprentices registered in such programs. Under the safety requirements, all firms will still need to ensure that craft labor and employees on the projects will have completed, prior to working on county projects, the OSHA 10 training course for safety established by the U.S. Department of Labor. The amendment to the safety requirements will require that each of the prime contractors to ensure that each one of the primes have at least one person that has completed the OSHA 30-hour construction training course established by the United States Department of Labor. So essentially, when you think about it, what you've heard here today is that there is 2 amendments, 2 sections of the ordinance. And so under our current language, firms are required to have skilled workers that participate and graduate from the programs, but without the added 70%, there's no guarantee we actually have those folks on our projects. So that was a necessity. Under the safety amendment, to have the OSHA 10, which we're keeping, but to also have that competent person, one for each prime contractor, to be certified with the OSHA 30, makes the job sites more safe. So, I mean, it's essentially twofold. You know, we're going to be guaranteed to have qualified workers, and then from a safety standpoint, people will be able to go home at the end of the day the same way they came in the morning on our projects. That concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you. Any board comments or questions regarding the RCO? Questions for Mr. Griggs? Anything else?
Just, thank you. And it's good to see all the members that are here from the construction trades. Good to see you be here today. And I just want to point out something of why this RCO, along with prevailing wage, is so important for county projects. And I'm just going to tell a short story that I heard a few years ago of a large nonprofit here in Bucks County who was doing a big capital budget project, millions of dollars. It was a large building project. And they had the opportunity to get a grant from Harrisburg to pay for a part of that project. And it wasn't for the whole thing, it was, just a small part of that project. But in doing so, if they took that grant, that whole project would have had to be not only prevailing wage, but an RCO would have to be in place for that project. The board of directors decided that they would not take the grant, they would put it out for bid, and they took a very low bid on building the project. And I talked to the COO after the project had been completed, and he told me, he says, that was the worst decision we could have ever have made. Because in taking the low bid and without prevailing wage and without an RCO, much of the people that came in that won the bid came from out of state. And he mentioned 2 states, Mississippi and Alabama. And he said they came here to build that project with house trailers, with the people who were in these trailers doing the work, living in the trailers. And he said to me, he said, you know what, I'm not sure that many of those people weren't illegal aliens doing the work on the project. And after it was built, he said, we had so many problems with the electric, with the roof leaking, with the plumbing. He said there were problems all over the place. And he said, then we tried to get a hold of the people who did the work, who came from out of state, and they wouldn't even return their calls. So it ended up, for that nonprofit, paying for construction companies here in Pennsylvania to come in and redo the work that should have been done the first time. And I look at these members of the building trades that are out here, there are local people. There are, I don't know, they all live here in Bucks County, but they're all Pennsylvania residents. And I think having prevailing wage and an RCO in place make sure that these bids and construction work are done by Bucks County and Pennsylvania companies, and that the people who are working on their jobs are trained, they've gone through an apprentice program, they're going to do a good job the first time, do it right, they're professionals, and I think it's really, really important that we adjust our RCO to make sure that happens, that the construction projects that we do here in Bucks County for the county are done by responsible people who are professional and know how to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to briefly echo everything that Commissioner DiGirolamo said. I fought for many years to try to get an RCO here in the county or project labor agreements, and I was unsuccessful until my colleagues were willing to pass one with me in 2020. And the courthouse we have across the street is a prime example of why we should have had a responsible contracting ordinance. We have had ongoing trouble that has cost taxpayers money. And that's one of the most important things that we can do is protect the taxpayers' money. So when work was done over there with unskilled, untrained labor, we are now repairing it all the time and making up for it. So I am proud to vote for this because I want to make sure the taxpayers are having skilled, trained workers doing the jobs.
Thank you. Yeah, similar to my 2 colleagues, when I was a fall supervisor, we passed an RCO in 2005. I know Middletown passed one, I think, before that when Commissioner Mercegle was a supervisor. And it was relatively easy for us to pass it because a couple of years before, Pennsbury School District had undertaken all kinds of renovations to their elementary schools. And they had gone to lowest bidder, and they were redoing school by school every couple of years. And it was just a nightmare. The one school I remember couldn't open until I think October. Because they had so many problems with the contractors they had hired. They had to hire completely, just like the story Commissioner DiGirolamo told, they had to go out and hire completely different people to come in and fix all the problems just so, the kids could end up going to school. And I remember that situation. And so when it came time for us to take a look at it in 2005, it was very easy. And it's still in place now in Falls, and it's worked very, very well ever since, and it's worked well here. And so we're happy to make these couple changes that Mr. Griggs outlined. He's been working very hard on this for months now. I appreciate his work. Our Director of Purchasing as well, Ms. McIlvaine's been involved in implementing it, so it's our legal staff as well. So we've been getting a lot of good advice on this, and this is, for the three people up here, it's a pretty easy thing to do. It's kind of it's not everything in government's that hard. Sometimes it's very easy. This is one of those things that's actually very easy. And we'll take a vote on that. We do have a couple more things on our regular agenda, which we want to, do you want to vote on the ordinance first and then go to the regular? Do that? Okay. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 167?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry, do roll call, I apologize.
It's okay. If we can have first Commissioner Harvey,
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Marseglio,
Aye.
Commissioner DiGirolamo.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. All right, next we have a couple different agricultural preservation steps we're taking. And we'll see 18 and 19 in our agenda. I think John, here he comes. John Ives is here to give a presentation about some of the things we're doing.
Great, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today. And I'm here to present two farms for preservation. One is located in Springfield Township and the other is located in Plumstead Township. The first farm is the Bennett Nevins Farm. This farm is located on Neckbridge Road in Springfield Township, and it ranked number 4 on our 2021 application list. Next slide. We would like to purchase a 60.01 acre easement on the entire tract of this property. It is contiguous with 100 acres of already preserved land, deed restricted, and within 1 mile of 9 already preserved farms through our ag preservation program. Next slide. The easement will protect over 40 acres of cropland and help preserve the Cooks Creek watershed area, which is located partially on this property as well as all around it within the wooded area. Next slide. The agricultural conservation easement will have 2 grantees, the state and the county. The total cost for the easement will total about just over $660,000, and the county will cover 25% of that cost, totaling just over $165,000. This farm will be the 41st farm preserved in Springfield Township and the 237th farm preserved in the county. Next slide. The second farm is the Plumstead Acquisition Farm. And this farm ranked number 2 on our 2021 application list. Next slide. It is located along Route 413 Durham Road in Plumstead Township and consists of 4 tracts. It is with 1 mile of 4 protected farms from our ag program. Next slide. It is a crop farm that grows corn, hay, and sod. It has very productive, fertile soils, and the owners are 100% involved in the farming operations. Next slide. The easement will have 3 grantees for this one, and it will total 68.24 acres. And the 3 grantees are the state, the county, and a local land trust, the Heritage Conservancy. The total cost of the easement is just over $887,000. The county will cover 46.15% of that at a cost of just over $409,000. This preservation will be the 23rd farm preserved in Plumstead and the 238th farm preserved in the county. So with these preservations, the county will add 128 acres of preserved farmland, and that will make the total county up to 18,431 acres overall. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, all right, comments or questions for Mr. Ives?
No, thank you, that's good news, 18,000 acres.
Yeah, we appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have items 18 and 19. Let's do our budget adjustments too. Mr. Pascola, we'll talk about our budget adjustments here.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Budget adjustment number 1 for 2022 will recognize the increased grant revenue that we were going to be getting from PennDOT and refers to item 14A and B that was approved on the consent agenda. The increased grant amount for the reimbursement agreement for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail Phase 1, and 14B was for the Neshaminy Greenway Trail in Core Creek Park. The added revenue is $1.34 million, and it has no impact on the general fund balance.
Okay, good news. All right, thank you. Comments or questions, Mr. Boscola? No? Okay. All right, is there a motion then to approve what's on our regular agenda, which is item 18, the remaining items on the regular agenda, item 18, as well as the budget adjustments?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, personnel actions. Any comments or questions on the personnel actions as presented? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, for a board appointment, we have one appointment, Mr. Walt Hansel, to the Local Emergency Planning Committee. I don't have a term in front of me, but is there a motion to approve Mr. Hansel?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other civics, county will be making contributions to SCORE, $2,800, the Washington Crossing Council, the Boy Scouts of America, $4,000, and for Habitat for Humanity, $1,500. Okay. Is there a motion to approve those contributions?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Chief Operating Officer, Ms. McKevitt?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have some happy news to report. The incentive program at the nursing home is working. Staffing levels have increased and continue to increase. Our dispatchers program is leveling out, I think. I think we're net about 6 positions that we need to fill still, right, after this next training program. However, we do still need some folks in corrections and also in other areas of the county. So we are hosting a county job fair in cooperation with our workforce development folks. I believe it is April 27th, and there'll be more information to follow on this. April 27th from 4 to 7 in the 3rd floor rotunda in this building. Something I don't think we've ever done before. So I'm pleased to be able to do that here. There are a couple key positions we're looking for. We're looking for a benefits administrator in human resources. We need an IT specialist for our corrections. And then also, we're looking for a law department, is she an assistant? Would be an assistant to paralegal, right? Yes. And then also, we are looking for seasonal help in our parks. So I'm hoping that folks will come out and join us at our job fair on April 27th. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Solicitor report?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll begin by reporting out on the board's executive sessions. The commissioners met on March 4th to receive information, and then they followed it up with an executive session with staff and legal counsel to receive confidential legal advice. The board also had its standing executive session yesterday when they met with the staff and legal counsel to discuss personnel and employment matters as well as collective bargaining negotiations. Second, Commissioner Ann Rusovich-Faust talked about during her presentation a public comment that she and her staff submitted to the Supreme Court's Rules Committee concerning bail reform. And I'll share with the public that following that letter, all 3 of the commissioners here signed their own letter expressing their strong support for the position and the views expressed by the Public Defender's Office, advocating for bail reform that is sensible and starts to provide both more equity and fairness in our criminal justice system. It is really a great example of what an outstanding job this board has done in maintaining and protecting the independence of the Public Defender's Office, which by law has to be in county government. And it's not about the commissioners telling the public defender what to do, but rather empowering that office to do the great things they do. And I think that was evinced by the board's really strong letter. And then finally, Commissioner Harvey asked us to get involved in some amicus briefing that we expect to be filed today in the matter of Armstrong versus Philadelphia. This is a case where an ordinance passed by Philadelphia was overturned by the Commonwealth Court, which is kind of the intermediate appeals court in Pennsylvania for a lot of matters involving government. And something that was a little unusual, one of the judges who agreed to throw the law out basically criticized the court's own thinking and said that this probably required the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to weigh in and revisit some of the law that's now on the books concerning the power of municipalities and county governments to pass their own laws, just as we did today regarding our need for an amended responsible contractor ordinance. And so because of that issue, there was an interest in allowing local governments to pass sensible laws for their communities. Commissioner Harvey asked us to get involved, but there's another reason, and that's because in this case in particular, this man Armstrong was what's known as a straw purchaser or a gun trafficker, someone who went and bought a bunch of guns, claimed that they were going to be for himself, but his real intent was to give them to other people. And just after he had purchased 6 guns, one of them, a Ruger, turned up at a crime scene in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Armstrong admitted that he was guilty and went to court. However, brought a legal challenge to that ordinance in Philadelphia that Philadelphia had passed with the support of its police department, requiring people in that city to report any guns that they claim are lost or stolen. When Commissioner Harvey saw that this was going on with all of the news that we receive about gun violence in Philadelphia and the talk about having tools in place to stop that, recognizing that today somewhere between 30 and 35,000 Bucks Countyans are going to go into Philadelphia to go to work, to go to school, to go to sporting events or for other purposes. He said to me, a safe Philadelphia is a safe Bucks County, and we need to speak up. And so for that reason, we will be signing on along with over a dozen other amici, including the Municipal League and other cities and counties in Pennsylvania. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, we have some brief public comments. We do have some people signed up. This could be on any item. First, Mr. Mackhouse.
Hello, I'm Ed Backhouse. I'm talking about Ukraine. I think there's many Ukrainians in this district, but I think all of us support Ukraine and the innocent people who are being needlessly bombed and killed. And I don't think any of us believe that we should stand aside and see this slaughtering of innocent people, unnecessary slaughtering. With the previous president, he gets blamed for things because he talked nice to Putin. It's okay to talk nice to him, but you need to carry a big stick. Trump said that if you bomb Ukraine and you attack Ukraine, we'll bomb Moscow. America's had air superiority all the time. We used it before in Yugoslavia and Iraq to prevent innocent people from being slaughtered. I see no reason why we spend all this money on the planes. We don't have to send ground troops there. We can send our planes there, get control of the skies like Yugoslavia asked for, and end this slaughter. And also, it's better to talk than to fight. Just say, we'll promise you that we won't bomb Moscow, like Trump said, if you just stop your things and pull your troops out. It's not rocket science that we have the power to do it. But Ukraine is a big battlefield. It's a big battlefield in World War II. If we let Ukraine fall, they occupy Ukraine, which is ready, and they prepared to fight and are willing to fight. Other countries in Europe, which didn't support Trump so much and didn't militarize enough to stop them, could be overrun, like Putin said, and he'll get to the English Channel. So we need to stop, reunite Democrats, Republicans, start the oil production again so that we don't have to buy oil, raise our oil prices, and finance the war, and finance Iran's nuclear weapons.
Thank you. Scott Vogan.
Scott Logan, Warrington Township. As anyone's followed the Board of Elections meeting, I've been explaining my situation there, including abusive behavior from the Warrington Republicans, which ranges from anti-Semitic comments to anti-disability comments and what have you. I'm not going to go into details now. Some of it's coming from the constable. When I asked the county to work on removing the constable, Daniel Geiser from the solicitor's office says, we're not going to do anything. If you're being harassed, you should quit. That's just plain ludicrous. That means you're saying you three commissioners are accepting this behavior. Okay, it's rising. There's no excuse for it. I can't believe an attorney would make such a comment when they know it's inappropriate. And Mr. Khan, I'm sorry, he's one of your attorneys. I think you need to have a word with him about it because it just shouldn't be happening. You know, and there's, everyone's saying there's nothing we will do. It's just nonsense. And I'm trying to keep decorum here by using certain words, keep away from certain words. But, you know, I shouldn't have to resign, which is a comment they said. If you're being harassed, resign. People are just getting nasty down there, and I'm the only one they're doing it to. And unfortunately, if it doesn't stop, Mr. Weintraub's office probably will have to be brought into this. And I don't want it going there because at that point, it's too late. And I think the solicitor's office needs to relook at the situation and say, we can't have this. Mr. Geiser, if I'm pronouncing his name right, I think you pronounce it differently. You can't talk that way. Maybe someone else needs to look at it and say, we can't have it. But by extension, you three commissioners are the ones approving it if you allow this behavior to continue. And we're talking about anti-Semitic and anti-disability comments. Thank you.
Okay. Indy Warren?
I commend the commissioner's support of the ROC action that you passed, which brings me to a point that I've spoken to a number of times from here. Following up on Commissioner DiGirolamo's comment about people working out of trailers, coming from all over and taking jobs from many Bucks Countyans. We are allowing every day hundreds, if not thousands, of people to come across illegally our borders who will be the very people who will be taking jobs from many of our fellow countyans who are trying to get educated in trades, etc. I thought it was most interesting that the commissioners took action because you could by sending a letter supporting the public defender's letter to their association. I've asked before and I'm asking again. You have the ability to be our voice in a state that can lead other states. Write a letter to the PSACC, whatever they're called now, the State Association of Commissioners. Write a letter to the President of the United States. We must close our southern border or we're going to be having people out of trailers all over. You can do it. I'm asking you as our elected officials to do it.
Thank you. Kay Rock?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kay Rock. I live in Doylestown Borough, and I am a board member of the Bucks County Herald Foundation. I came here this morning with 2 goals, and as a result of the meeting, I now have 3. My first goal was to experience a meeting of the county commissioners, and I have found it very interesting and informative. So I thank you all for that gift of democracy. My second goal is to develop and recognize local journalism, and also to gain some financial support through budgetary appropriations. To be honest, I don't know where to start with this, so I'm here to seek guidance as to what my first step should be. My third goal, as a result of participating this morning in the meeting, is I was very moved and touched by the proclamations. And the Bucks County Herald will celebrate its 20th anniversary this October. So my third goal is to get guidance around how I might introduce the idea of a proclamation for the Herald for this October.
Okay.
I don't know if
We'll typically answer all the questions at the end.
at the end?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you, appreciate it. Okay, that's convenient because that actually is the end. So we'll do these maybe, I guess, in reverse order. In terms of financial support, I think we're going to have to discuss. I'm not sure exactly what kind of financial support the Herald would be looking for. Proclamation, the two young people who are sitting to your right are usually the ones who handle that. Ms. Rock, so you can speak with them. You know, it's convenient how they're just there waiting for you now. Any other comments or questions on anything else that was brought up? No? Okay. All right, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Mersegle.
Just my thoughts and prayers, obviously, with everyone else here are with the people of Ukraine. But this is also Social Work Month, so I wore my pin today, and I wanted to thank all the social workers we have in Bucks County, but we probably have 300, 400 that work at the nursing home, children and youth, area agency on aging, mental health, adult probation, juvenile probation, the public defender. They are everywhere. And the theme for this year is the time is right for social work. And given all the emphasis that we're seeing of the needs for mental health as well as economic stress, it certainly is the time for social work. So I wanted to thank them. And every social worker knows our favorite social worker is Brene Brown. So I just wanted to read a quick quote she said about social work. She said, if you're going to change what's happening for society or for an individual in a meaningful way, you need to intentionally be with people who are different from you. You're going to have to sign up and join. You're going to have to take a seat at the table. You'll have to learn how to listen, how to have hard conversations, how to look for joy, share pain, and be more curious than defensive, all while you seek to have connection and togetherness. So thanks to all those social workers that are out there.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick, I also want to welcome Tim, who's our new veterans person here in Bucks County. Welcome, Tim. Looking forward to working with you. And Dan McPhillips, our recorder of deeds, I think you have a new person that's here for her first meeting. I don't know, maybe you want to just introduce her to us all?
Thank you, Commissioner. Two people, actually, I'd like to introduce. My first is my first deputy, Denise Calfronte. Denise, welcome aboard. And you may know my new second deputy is Susan McCracken. And Susan is a longtime employee of Bucks County, and I look forward to working with them both.
Okay, good. Welcome to Bucks County and county government. Just real quick, I just want to just say something. I just can't help myself being an old farmer on the open space program and the agriculture saving the farms. 18,000 acres, and that is really so important to all of us and our quality of life here in Bucks County, and really for two reasons. It's good to preserve these farms and keep them farms. I mean, we have to balance, what we're doing in the communities, but it's important to keep these farms as farms for two reasons. First, it's good for the community. And, people like to have open space, and it's really good for the community where the farms are. But it's also, maybe more importantly, for the families that own these farms. And many of these farms that are being preserved are the people that own the farms are a husband and wife who are getting older, who have family members and children who are involved in the farms. And this gives them the opportunity to pass the farms down on to their children, to keep the business going, agriculture. And remember, in the state of Pennsylvania, agriculture is still the #1 economic industry in our state, and it's an important industry for Bucks County as well. So for a variety of reasons, this is a great program, and I am just so happy to see that we've preserved 2 more farms here today, and hopefully moving in the future that we'll be able to preserve many more because it's important to the quality of life here in Bucks County. Thank you.
I want to echo the thanks we have of the people who are here today supporting the Responsible Contractors Ordinance and here for the issues that you care about. We appreciate you being here. Ms. McKevitt mentioned the job openings we have, not just we certainly have seasonal help. We have, always looking for people in the summertime, for anybody out there who has, kids or nephews or nieces who are looking for summer work. The county is looking to hire. And also full-time work. We're looking for dispatchers, 911, we're looking for corrections workers, we're looking for people up and down the spectrum, IT professionals and human resources professionals. So, put the feelers out, let people know this is a pretty good place to work, and we're proud of that. So just tomorrow being St. Patrick's Day, I started something several years ago when I was a supervisor at the meeting before St. Patrick's Day, telling a story. I told it last year, I think for the first time here. I think I forgot to do it in 2020. And I got a lot of people who like the story, and we've got some newer people, so maybe they haven't heard it, or if you heard it last year, you probably forgot. So I'll tell it again. My parents were not exactly world travelers. My father always said he would never travel outside America till he visited every state, because there's enough in this country to see. Why do I need to go overseas? I think the furthest he'd been out of the States was, I think, a cruise to Bermuda that my mother drug him on when they were like, their 20th wedding anniversary or something. That was it. But he eventually went on a trip with my mother and some aunts and uncles and some people from their church, one of the guided sort of, everybody travel together, get on a bus and drive around kind of tour of Ireland. They left Newark Airport on September 10th, 2001. They were in Ireland less than 24 hours when the terrorist attacks happened. Not really being, kind of well-versed and experienced in terms of being overseas, they were, like a lot of the people on the trip with them, my family members and others, extended family, very nervous, very upset, very anxious, not knowing what was going to happen. They started looking for, maybe we'll just cancel this and go home. But of course, if you remember, all the flights were canceled. They looked into flying into Canada and then renting a car, but that didn't seem feasible. Some of the people on the trip with them even looked at buying tickets on an ocean liner, hoping that by the time they got back to America, things had settled down. But over the course of a couple days, because the tour went on, they didn't have a choice, had to go along. Within a day or so, they started to relax, and they started to feel more comfortable. And what changed them, what changed their minds, were the people of Ireland. I'm very proud of my Irish ancestry and the struggles that the Irish people had when they came here, and the strength they show, and certainly certainly proud of the little country and everything it's gone through. But it was interesting for what they did not expect, driving around on a tour bus with a lot of other people, who were mostly retired, and seeing the quintessential little cottages that you'd see in the middle of the green fields with the stone walls. And they'd pass by a cottage out in the middle of nowhere, and there'd be an American flag hanging out the window. And it stunned them. They just sort of surprised them. Where are the people who own this little cottage, come up with an American flag? When they got to Dublin, they couldn't get anywhere near the embassy, not because of security, but because of the tens of thousands of flowers and candles and stuffed animals that the Irish people had left in front of the American embassy. And everywhere they went, they were greeted by people who just showed so much concern for them. And they kind of returned with this new vision of what it meant to be an American overseas and what it meant to be Irish. And they said if they couldn't be here on those days after that terrible terrorist attack, at least they were in Ireland. And so it's something I think of this time every year, you know, and it's, you know, kind of makes me even more proud to be Irish, you know, and makes me proud to be an American as well, because you know, there is a lot of love for this country around the world. We tend to watch the news and only hear the negative, but in reality, there's a lot more positive. It's just that, you know, good news doesn't sell, unfortunately, and so you focus on the negative too much. But wish everyone a very happy and safe St. Patrick's Day. Thank you to those of you who are Irish, you know, happy St. Patrick's Day. For those of you who aren't lucky enough to be Irish, well, it's okay. You know, you're not bad anyway. So, okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.